Today's project, we're going to be hand carving a Gothic cross, similar to the chrome hearts design. The cross is perhaps one of the most widely recognized symbols in the world, and it represents various meanings across different civilizations. The cross is a powerful symbol, and I think this design is going to be great as a beginner project. So, for this project, we're going to need a pin vise, a 3-corner file, wax file, half round file, dividers, and a sheet of carving wax. And let's not forget the soldering iron. I prefer to use the matte carving wax. Almost forgot, we're going to need a jeweler's saw and a toothbrush. And I'm going to use a little bit of 180 grit sandpaper. So instead of cutting into a fresh sheet, I've got a few offcuts, so I'm going to use this. This is the way I do my cross pennants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a strip of wax, and then I'm going to use the dividers. The width of the wax, or the width of the cross, I'm going to scribe a line down there, and then I'll start cutting. I'm going to use these. I'm going to start cutting the strip. So this design, I need it quite wide. We're going to cut 2 strips with a width of around 10 mil. One is going to be 50 mil in length and the other 35 mil. So this is a sample that I prepared earlier. Now with the cross, I had the sample where I've put this over top. I've scribed the lines in the cross. Now we're going to cut a notch out from each strip. And then I've cut it out. And now it fits together perfect. You could just start drawing the cross out on a sheet of wax, but I find that you don't get it even. I find this way, we get a straight line this way, and we can get a straight line that way. So, and also, if it's not quite straight, you can actually sort of give it a little movement there. So the next process is, I'm actually going to use the soldering iron to melt some wax and solder it together. While I'm doing that, I can actually move it around a little bit. If it doesn't look even, I can sort of make some adjustments. So I'm going to use some wax and melt that into the cross, like so. So I've used the soldering iron to basically melt some wax into the joins there. So now I'm going to clean it up by just placing on a bit of sandpaper and then sanding it flat. Now this is the design we're going for. So first of all, we want to find the center line. So the line running down there and the line running across there. So that'll give us our center, and we'll start making some markings, and then we'll start carving. So now we've got the middle. I'm actually just going to do a little circle in here because that's going to be another little measurement that we're going to use. Now I want to make sure that this side is the same length as that side. As you can see, this end is a little bit longer than this end, so we'll use the file it down. So it's actually got a slight taper going into the middle of the cross. So to do that, we're going to obviously mark some lines. And I think we'll mark it about this thickness. I'm just going to use the ruler to carry those lines through. The other side. So you can see in this design we've got this sort of flaring out, I guess that's what it's called. So we're going to do that by just using the file And instead of using the flat and tapering in like that, we're going to use the rounded side and start filing down. What I think we'll do is we'll just file down a little bit, and we'll do that on each side, and then what we'll do is we'll start coming into the middle, and then what we'll do is slowly shape it. Okay, so we've started our curve and we've done each one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start coming in here, and then basically gradually sort of like coming in with a nice curve. A lot of this is just going to be done by eye, but obviously we've got our lines running through there as our guide. So if we start filing past this line, we know we've gone way too far. Start with the needle file first. Then use a bigger wax file next. Back to this file again. Also handy to have the toothbrush so you can brush the dust away and actually see what you're doing. Now you don't want to go too fast because you might end up taking away a little bit more than you're planning. Always checking you haven't gone past your lines. And make sure you're filing at a 90-degree angle or right angle. Okay, so you can see that it started to take the shape that we're after. A little bit more work, so I'm going to do the rest. Your pendant should look something like this. I've just given the cross a light sand because I'm going to scribe some lines running down the side of the cross. So using the dividers, I'm going to set them to about 2.5 mil, 2.4 mil, and I'm going to start scribing some lines. Follow the outside edge of the cross. I make the lines a little bit deeper by using the scriber. Just going to use a ruler to run those lines through. Next, we want to create some of these grooves in a cross, and using the wax file, we'll create this point here, and then we'll put this curve to the outer edge. Place your file at about a 45-degree angle to the center to create the grooves that taper to the center of the cross. The outer edge should be straight up and down. Take your time to get this right, then repeat on the other side. So you want to angle this file so you can sort of like run it up and get it as close to that center line as possible. And we're going to curve this section in like so. Use your brush so you can see your lines. Make your lines a little deeper by using the scriber. Now I've filed this center bit, I want to put a bevel running this way down the side of the cross. So I'm just going to use a 3/4 file again and just take my time and just slowly and just do it evenly. Create a little bit of a bevel on this cross. So I've done one side of the cross, I've just got 3 more sides to do. Your cross should look something like this. So we've got these lines running up here and across here, which has created a small box. Now we want it to look just like a chrome hearts cross, so we're going to add the ball right in the center of the square. So we're going to use the soldering iron, and we've got a small bit of wax here. Keep adding wax to make your ball bigger. So now we've added the ball to the cross, we've got one more thing to do. We've got to add a hoop for the bow. So we're just going to add a solid hoop, no hole, because what we're going to do is we're going to use this for the master for some sand casting. So I'm going to start adding some wax to the top of the bow, and that is going to create my hoop. Because this is going to be the master for the sand casting, I'm not going to add a hole in the loop, because I will do that once it's in silver. So the best way to do this is to add a little bit of wax, wait for it to dry, and then add a little bit more. If you're like me, I rushed it a little bit, and you'll start to get your wax looking a little bit like this. To fix that, obviously what we do is we remelt it, and we can actually tilt it and get the wax to move. Heat it up a little bit more, get it to move to where we want, and then obviously if we keep on little movements like that, means that we can sort of get it to where we want, but obviously we're going to have to let it to dry, and then we're going to add a little bit more wax. So if you take your time, you will be able to achieve a perfect circle. But my one's not so perfect, so I'm going to just end up using the file and just tidying it up. So I've got a big blob at the back, which I'll remove with the file. I'm probably going to add a little bit more in here. Make it nice and strong. Just using the file like a little scraper. Be careful on how much pressure you use, because it's easy to break the wax at the joins. I notice I can see some faint outlines of a little crack here, but don't worry, because this is the master for our sand casting, it's not going to matter. So if you do see some cracks, you can either try and repair them, but I think you can get away with it because we are just basically going to push this into a sand casting mold, then pop it out, and then use the impression for the casting. In a future video, we're going to show you guys how to do sand casting, and we're going to use this cross as the mold. So subscribe to the channel, and you might want to check this video out next. So to make a scriber, all we've done is use the pin vise, and then we've added a broken burr, and we just sharpened it to a point. Ow!